Alright everyone, so this is a VGC 2020 monotype tournament where each person in the tournament had a different type and we had to build a team around that type. And this is my round 5 and I'm fighting a mono poison team from Atomic Duck and I'm using Mono Ghost. I've been using Mono Ghost this whole tournament. This match already happened, but I'm kind of commentate retroactively and explain my decision-making process and stuff like that, so I hope you think it's interesting. So, without further ado, let's get started. Now, I see on the team preview, I look at his team, and I kind of want to identify what things might be a problem for me, and I see that the Slowbro is actually kind of scary to me, because in the past, all of my opponents, I feel like Trick Room's kind of been a very important part of my game plan, especially with running Mono Ghost. So that Pokemon scares me. Venusaur is kind of scary as well, because, yeah, it has the sleep powder. I don't want to get put to sleep. I do have a couple answers for that, but yeah, I don't really want to get put to sleep. And then Drapion is also kind of a threat because it's a dark type. And so, one of the things is that, all my previous matches have been neutral, meaning that, grass is neutral against ghost is neutral against grass. I fought grass, fire, water, and dragon, and so our stabs are neutral to each other, but in this match, ghost resists poison, so I technically should have the advantage here, but if he has a lot of dark-type moves, or, Gengar can be a problem for my team maybe as well, I think it could definitely work out as his favor, and, Ghost isn't super effective against poison, so I don't have an offensive advantage, it's only a defensive advantage. So, I decided to go with Dusclops and Dragapult here, and kind of my thought process here is that this lead is very versatile. I've been using this lead kind of a lot. If my Dusclops had Trick Room, it would be even more versatile, but my Dusclops doesn't have Trick Room, but it's good I can Shadow Sneak proc Dragapult and use Dragapult's offensive power really well. And then I can also, I could ally switch to save Dragapult from some situations that might be critical. I also like this lead because, I get the Frisk, I know what items it has, and then I also get to kind of see how my opponent behaves with Dusclops on the field. If the opponents try to, kill Dusclops really fast, it means that they're definitely, they're probably scared of Trick Room. And so, even though my Dusclops doesn't have Trick Room, I'm kind of, pretending I have a Trick Room Dusclops for the purpose of gathering information. 97 or 98% of Dusclops run Trick Room, so, it's, makes sense that would be the threat. So, I go for Phantom Force here, because I think he might Trick Room. It's possible that his Slowbro has Trick Room, and honestly, the weakness policy Slowbro scares me a lot, because if he has set up Trick Room, I could definitely be in trouble. Now, Trick Room's a big part of my game plan, but in this particular match, I didn't really bring a good Trick Room Pokemon. I brought Dusclops, which is good, it just doesn't have enough power. I brought Dragapult, which is just not good in Trick Room, and then I brought Mimikyu, and, which is, okay, it depends on the matchup. And then, Gengar, which is just bad, so I don't want him to set up Trick Room here. But I did go for the Phantom Force because, yeah, I did go for the Phantom Force here because if he did set up Trick Room, Dragapult wouldn't be able to be hit the next turn, because of the way the speed turn orders go. I also don't think he would set up... I was kind of thinking he might not actually set up Trick Room because of my team preview. My team preview has a lot of slow Pokemon on it, and Trick Room setters, so you can say, okay, maybe my goal is to set up Trick Room, and maybe, it wouldn't be a good idea for me to do that. So, anyway, so he uses Muddy Water with the Tentacruel, which doesn't scare me too much, because neither of my Pokemon have trouble with that option. I'm a little surprised he just lets the Slowbro eat the Phantom Force. I thought maybe he would switch either Dynamax Slowbro, or I thought he might switch out maybe into Drapion. The problem is he did proc the weakness policy, so he would have lost his weakness policy, but I guess with his team, it might not make sense for him to Trick Room, because the rest of his team's kind of faster, so... And he doesn't also know what I have in the back, and I still have Dusclops, so... Yeah, maybe that wasn't the move, but... Yeah, I'm a little surprised he just let his Slowbro get eaten by the Phantom Force, but it was kind of a tough situation. I did put a lot of pressure on my opponent with that play. So, now here, I could Dynamax my Dragapult here, but I kind of feel like I'm not sure what my opponent's going to be up to. I'm not sure if they're going to want to hit my Dragapult, or if they're going to want to go for my Dusclops. I want to see which one they decide to hit, and that'll kind of determine how I play the rest of the game, because I still have Mimikyu in the back, and Mimikyu is a very good Dynamax Pokemon. And I also still have, well, it can be. I should say Mimikyu can be a good Dynamax Pokemon. Even though it is Fairy against the Poison team, it's still, like, I still feel like it has potential in this matchup, specifically because of Drapion. And then I also have Gengar, so maybe Gengar is another option. I am running G-Max Gengar. I haven't been able to G-Max it yet, because I never felt comfortable doing it so far, but I am running G-Max Gengar, so that's like another thing to consider. Okay, so the crit, I don't think the crit really matters here, but I did get knocked out with Max Darkness, so that means that Dusclops is out here, and so now I just have Dragapult by itself on the field, and, you know, the Dragon Darts did a lot of damage because of that weakness policy proc. So now I think the move here is to bring out Mimikyu, and kind of my thought process here is because I am running Swords Dance on my Mimikyu, so I can kind of pick which Pokemon I want to Dynamax based upon this next turn. You know, I don't know which mon that my opponent is going to send out, but I do know that they're Dynamax, which means that their Drapion at the very least does not have spread damage. I don't know if Drapion normally has a good spread damage move, but I do know that at the very least they probably can't put on super strong spread damage. So that's my thought process anyway. And so my thought process is I can decide based upon, oh yeah, I guess he does have Muddy Water, which I forgot about, but Tentacruel's dying this turn, because if I use Dragon Darts, Tentacruel's gonna die this turn, so I guess he won't be able to use it at all. So my goal is for Dragon Darts, because that Dragon Darts is still doing a lot of damage against Drapion and Swords Dance. It's kind of what I'm feeling, because this covers a couple of different options. If my opponent decides to, like, Tentacruel's basically dead at this point. If he decides to hit if he decides to hit Dragapult, then I can Dynamax Mimikyu, and after Swords Dance, it'll be a really potent Dynamax Pokemon. If he decides to target Mimikyu and break the disguise, then I can Dynamax Dragapult instead. And, you know, I think Dragapult would still be a very good Dynamax candidate here. So, he decides to hit Dragapult, so I'm glad I didn't Dynamax Dragapult. He got another crit. I think, it's possible he's running maybe Scope Lens, because I think it has Sniper, which I think is really strong. It's possible he's running Scope Lens, maybe. Maybe, I'm not sure. So his attack rate is sharply. So now I set up the Swords Dance Mimikyu, which means that I'm ready to Dynamax my Mimikyu, probably. My Gengar does have a Focus Sash, but I feel against Drapion it's not a good matchup. Especially, okay, so he has a Gengar too, so this is cute. This is like high-fiving in the hallway in school when we pass by because we're both using the same Pokemon. It's funny when these type overlaps happen and we both use the same Pokemon, we're like Poison, Ghost, but anyway, it makes sense why I use Gengar, because Gengar is probably good offensively against my team. So what I'm kind of imagining next is this is probably going to be a speed tie, and I'm running Focus Sash Gengar, and there's a good chance my opponent's running Focus Sash Gengar too, although I have seen people run Choice Scarf Gengar in Mono Ghost teams, so maybe that's also an option. But, anyway, I feel safe to Dynamax my Mimikyu here because I use Swords Dance, and I still have my Disguise intact. I really don't see Gengar using a spread move, and I don't see Drapion I don't see Gengar using a spread move, and I think it's just, I feel pretty safe Dynamaxing Mimikyu here, especially because my Disguise is still intact. And luckily, you know, Play Rough is still neutral against Drapion, even though it's a, Poison type, because it's also a Dark type, so that's good. So, my opponent presumably wins the speed tie, unless it's Scarfed, but, and goes for Icy Wind. Now, I respect this, because I almost ran Icy Wind on my Gengar for speed control, because it's hard to find speed control on the Mono Ghost team, but I decided that I thought there were better options, but, you know, like, mad props, it's cool to see him use Icy Wind. So, yeah, I'm a little scared because he does get rid of my Disguise with Icy Wind and lower my speed, but the Max Darkness doesn't even come close to killing Mimikyu, so that makes me happy to see that. And now, I think I kind of won the game at this point, because knowing that as long as Mimikyu stays alive, I can kill Drapion with Max Starfall, and this should kill because it's neutral damage, and I'm at +2 attack. And it does kill. And so, his only Pokemon left is Gengar, so, Gengar does have Icy Wind, but I don't think Gengar has a strong enough spread move to be able to kill both of these Pokemon at the same time. He did get rid of my Focus Sash, so I don't have that option anymore. But, like, but I still have a lot of HP. So I'm running Dazzling Gleam on my Gengar. If he had Dazzling Gleam, it's still... I don't think it'd kill Mimikyu. Mimikyu's at -2 defense, or special defense, though, but, I don't think it'd kill Gengar, because Gengar resists it, so I don't think he can win at this point. He certainly... If he uses Shadow Ball, Mimikyu is going to kill him, and, you know, he only has 1 HP, so anything will kill at this point. I kind of wish I had Shadow Sneak open to me, but I'm still in Dynamax, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. My opponent doesn't have an option to win anyway. So, I take that game 1. I have to say that I think the mind games with the Dusclops, you know, was kind of nice. I also learned that because, like, it made him hesitant to try and set up Trick Room with Slowbro, if that's, like, maybe what he wanted to do. Yeah. And also my team preview being very Trick Room oriented probably was scary, so that's probably not something you wanted to do. Yeah, the Slowbro was definitely scary, though. I want to see if he is going to bring out Pokemon again. Mimikyu ended up doing a lot better in that battle than I thought, because I expected a mono poison team to maybe not... Mimikyu might not be the best Pokemon to use there, because it's fairy, but, you know, it actually did pretty well specifically against Drapion, because it's neutral against both of its stats, whereas, like, all my other Pokemon on the team are weak to Dark, so, actually did pretty well. So I for sure have to, consider how to get this next match going. Alright, so, yep, so there's a couple things, yeah, like I said, I am still concerned about the Slowbro, because, it limits my speed control options, and I am still concerned about the Venusaur, because I don't want to get put to sleep. I'm actually not sure why he didn't use Venusaur game 1. If I saw my team, I probably would try it. I don't know what spread it's running, but maybe he was just afraid of Dragapult, or maybe Shandy was afraid of Shandy, but he doesn't know that he is faster than Shandy, so, yeah. So, I think the Dragapult actually worked pretty well on this team, specifically because Dragapult's just faster than any other Pokemon he has. Unless if he's running Scarfed Max Speed Venusaur, that would be faster than Dragapult, but, I don't know that he is or isn't doing that, so I think that, like, Dragapult's still, like, a good Pokemon to bring here. And Mimikyu is obviously a good Pokemon to bring here as well. And, I guess I just kind of decided to do the same thing, which makes sense, because I think all the Pokemon I used worked very well in this matchup. And so I didn't really need to change my Pokemon setup at all. Alright, so my opponent does lead Weezing and Venusaur, so this is different than the last time where they led with Slowbro. Now, yeah, I'm a little bit scared here of the Venusaur because I don't know what item it's running. I don't know if it's Sashed, or I don't know if it's Scarfed, or I don't really know what its deal is. And at this point, you know, it's scary because I don't want to get put to sleep. I do have a couple of answers on my team for this. You know, I do have Mimikyu with Lumberry. I did put Lumberry on my Mimikyu, so it's immune to being, it's immune to being put to sleep. And then I do have Delmise, which is immune to powder moves, but I'm not going to bring Delmise to a mono poison team, probably not. So I decided to Shadow Sneak proc here again. I don't feel comfortable Dynamaxing, because, like, if it turns out it's Scarf Venusaur and he's running Sleep Powder, then, like, I would just lose my Dynamax, and I kind of feel like it's best not to commit here. So I Shadow Sneak proc, and then with my Weakness Policy, and I Phantom Force. Now, this is a good play, because my opponent is, so, basically, you know, my opponent has to take this Phantom Force, and my thought process is like, you know, if it ends up being faster, if the Venusaur is faster, then I'll learn it's Scarf Venusaur. It wasn't, so it's not Scarf Venusaur. So anyway, I go for, Phantom Force here, but my opponent actually doubles in on the Dusclops. They might be expecting me to do that again, which would make sense because I did it the last game. So I go for Phantom Force, and like, unfortunately, it doesn't quite get the KO, but it might be Sash Venusaur. Oh no, it's not Sash Venusaur because he has the Sash on Gengar, so it's not. So he goes for Strange Steam on my Dragapult, and he puts my Dragapult to sleep. Now, the strange thing about this is even though my Pokemon are asleep, I'm still not super afraid in this moment. You know, I don't like being put to sleep, but I don't think either of these Pokemon are really gonna be super threatening. Venusaur's threatening to put sleep up, but I don't think Weezing is doing enough damage to where I'm afraid of it. And that's the kind of the problem with Galarian Weezing, I think, in general, is that Galarian Weezing is a really good, its ability is really good. It has a really good ability, but it's like, its damage output always seems really underwhelming when I see people use it. So my opponent does the spread damage, which that's kind of smart because, you know, that's very, very smart. So I decide I wake up this turn, which is nice, like we like to see that, and I go for the Nightshade to kill the Venusaur. Now having the Venusaur off the field is really nice, in my opinion. I think my opponent made a mistake by using Weezing and Venusaur. Like, Venusaur's a really good Pokemon for, you know, challenging Dragapult, but the problem is he needed, like, a good offensive Pokemon to pair with the Venusaur, right? So he could put something to sleep and then hit it, and the Weezing just wasn't damaging output enough, so I wasn't really scared even though both my Pokemon were asleep. Alright, so now I have to decide what to do next. I don't know exactly what Pokemon he's gonna bring out here. But getting rid of the Venusaur is still gonna be nice, and yes, I know Mimikyu has Lumberry, so technically, like, I didn't need to, you know, rush in on the Venusaur necessarily right away, but it was definitely the biggest threat on the field at the time. And also, I don't know if the Gengar has Will-O-Wisp or something like that, I might rather use my Lumberry for it. So now my opponent brings out Gengar, and, yeah. So this is actually, like, okay for me, because you know, Gengar might use Icy Wind again, which might be a good condition for me to set up Trick Room. Later, maybe. Gengar might also just break my Disguise with Icy Wind. But the point of the matter is that Gengar is the more offensive threat this time, so Gengar's scarier. But my opponent actually has Gengar faster than Weezing, so Gengar would have to break Disguise, and then Weezing would have to be the one to hit Mimikyu. So I think that it's good for me overall. So I tried Dynamaxing there. So here's what happens. I tried Dynamaxing my Mimikyu and hitting the Gengar, thinking, oh, I need to hit Gengar. And I'm right. So he does have Will-O-Wisp, which, like, yeah, we don't want to see it. But I have Lumberry, so it's okay. I tried Dynamaxing Gengar, Dynamaxing and hitting Gengar here, so the problem with this is that I don't lock in my move fast enough, and, yeah, I don't lock in my move fast enough, so I don't get the Dynamax. So this busts the Disguise, and so, alright, so here's kind of a lesson for maybe people who are new to Pokemon VGC or Sword and Shield specifically. If you don't lock in a move in time, it selects the first move in your move slot automatically. So since the first move in Mimikyu's move slot is Trick Room, I use Trick Room. I need to change that. I need to put a different move first on my Mimikyu instead of Trick Room, so it uses something a little more safe, because, like, if I accidentally use Trick Room, it's going to change the complete flow of the battle. So I accidentally used Trick Room here, but you know what? When I look at this board, I'm like, that's actually not a horrible thing. Like, this isn't actually terrible, because Dusclops has speed advantage now. And Mimikyu has speed advantage against Gengar. I don't know if it has speed advantage against Weezing. I don't think it does. It doesn't have speed advantage against Weezing. But the Weezing is not doing a lot of damage to my Pokemon anyway. So, you know, the Trick Room was accidental. I didn't really mean to do that. I meant to Dynamax Mimikyu and hit Gengar, but overall it's pretty good. The only thing I have to worry about here that's a concern is if my opponent brings Slowbro in the back, then I actually am going to have a lot of problems, especially because they haven't used their Dynamax yet. So I'm just kind of hoping my opponent didn't bring the Slowbro, because if they did, then this game's going to go really badly in my favor. But, if they don't have the Slowbro and they have another Pokemon, then it should be okay. Alright, so he uses Strange Steam. Again, I don't get the Confusion, which is good. The Confusion would just make my life a lot worse, so I'm glad I don't get the Confusion there. And then, yeah, I just hit Gengar with Phantasm, because why not? And I get the defense drop on the Weezing, and so Yeah, the Trick Room was really smart. It was an accidental Trick Room, but it was still really smart on my part. As long as they don't have the weakness policy Slowbro. If they do, then this plan is gonna go bad. So he brings out Drapion. And this is a lot better than the Slowbro. I'm really glad he didn't bring Slowbro, because I would be in so much trouble right now. So, my thought process here is I kind of just need to kill the Drapion. If I kill the Drapion, I win the game. Because I don't think the Weezing has enough damage to kill Dusclops. Mainly because Dusclops is just really bulky. And the Weezing is not outputting a lot of damage. And I think if I can do that much, I think I can win the game. Now, one thing I forget here is that in the previous game, I learned that my Mimikyu is slower than the Drapion, but I kind of forget about this, and I kind of think that Drapion has speed advantage here. So I ally switch because I don't want Mimikyu to take damage, and I want to be able to hit the Drapion with Mimikyu. My thought process being is that if I can kill this Drapion, I think I win the game. I think that my opponent's not going to be able to win the game if I take out the Drapion. Now, if my opponent had, let's say, Protect, they could work around this idea of a win condition, but their Weezing has Protect. Yeah, so I reveal my allies, which I don't know if I needed to do that, but I go for Max Starfall, and so I'm surprised that I attack first, but I did realize that earlier in the game, Drapion did go before Mimikyu. I'm really surprised oh, that was a crit. That was a crit. I was about to say, I was really surprised at how much damage that Max Starfall does, because I didn't use Swords Dance. Usually Mimikyu's damage output without Swords Dance is a little weak. It's only base 90 attack, but, you know, that crit made actually a lot of difference. It's quite possible that the crit made a lot of difference. So I used Ally Switch. In retrospect, I don't know if Ally Switch was the right move here, because, yeah, the Dusclops is actually, I just wanted Mimikyu to be able to attack, and I figured that he was going to go for the Mimikyu because I Dynamaxed it, but he actually didn't. He actually went for the Dusclops, so if I had crit and lost Mimikyu, I might not have been able to win this anymore. But I just really needed to kill the Drapion. That's ultimately what I need to do. Of course, I'm checking my Trick Room turns here to see if I have enough turns to be able to kill a Drapion first. So, yeah. So again, I think I'm just gonna hit Drapion again. I think if I double into the Drapion, I will win the game. And that's kind of what my move here is, because I'm not sure that Play Rough will kill from this range, because the one did so much damage because it was a crit, right? So I want to make sure it kills, so I go for double into it. So I feel like the Drapion didn't have Protect. I was kind of making a read there. I was hoping that it didn't have Protect, because it didn't use it the last turn, and I thought that would have been a good time to use it. But it didn't use it, so I'm thinking it doesn't have Protect. And I was right, or at least my opponent didn't use it. I was right, I was able to get the kill on the Drapion. Now this is just the 1v1 versus Weezing versus Mimikyu. And I don't think that my opponent is going to be able to kill Dusclops with Weezing. I don't think it has enough damage output to be able to kill Dusclops, so I think I'm gonna win at this point. Dusclops is at, like, -1 special defense, but, it's only -1 special defense, and I think Dusclops has too much bulk. I don't think Weezing's gonna be able to kill it. So I go for Shadow Sneak here just to get some extra damage, because I feel Mimikyu's gonna die this turn, so I just go for the extra damage. I really wish I had Trick Room, because Trick Room would probably seal it, but I don't have Trick Room, so I can't seal it that way. So Mimikyu goes down, which is unfortunate, but yeah, that Dusclops is eating those heat waves like crazy. I feel like I could just Pain Split Nightshade maybe my way to victory from this point. Or even just double Nightshade. Oh, I still have Gengar on the back. You know what? Never mind. Forget that analysis. I have Gengar on the back, so yeah, I definitely just win, because Gengar's faster than anything, and because Trick Room just ended, I can just hit Gengar with, or Weezing with Sludge Bomb. I look here to see which one's stronger. Sludge Bomb's actually stronger. But yeah, I don't know if I actually needed Gengar to win the game, but Gengar definitely steals it, for sure. Gengar definitely steals the deal, for sure. Alright, so, yep, so I can just kill it Sludge Bomb, and that just killed, so, like, yeah. Alright, so I won that game. That was a good game by Adam. I think it went pretty well.